Here we are at chapter 14, and this time we're going to be putting pronominal suffixes onto prepositions. So these are the inseparable prepositions that we looked at earlier in chapters, probably chapter 9, 8 maybe, 8 and 9 through that section. This time we're going to be adding suffixes to these. And I have, what I've done here is basically just taken screenshots of the book to kind of show you some of these elements. This is really going to take a lot of just recognition and memorization. The prepositions are not going to line up well with the suffixes as it relates to a series of steps. Some of them will, and I'll try to point out where they do, but for the most part, it's going to be just a matter of adding the suffix to the preposition and kind of memorizing which ones do what. I say that, and it is going to be a pain in this chapter. However, you typically will not be stumped by these when you see them in text. They are fairly unique, and so if you kind of get down a few little differences and details, these will not stump you in the text. So I have put on our Moodle page a series of boxes. Actually, what I've done is I've just written down like the lamed all the way down and the bait all the way down. And you can go in and just add the box to them, add the accents, the marks, all of that sort of thing. So feel free to use those charts. I think there's one there for all and min and the kaf. There's some charts there for all of these. So use those well. Again, to learn the language, you have to use the language. For us to use the language, since we're not speaking it, we just need to do drills again and again and again. So write these as many times as you can. Let me point out a couple of things here on the lamed and the bait. Primarily, you're just going to be adding the suffix to the lamed or the bait. Don't forget the dagesh lene in the bait all the way down. That has nothing to do with the suffix, but that is a bait preceded by the absence of sound. The next one I want to point out to you is the 2MP through 3FP with these heavy endings. The original vowel under the lamed would have been a patach, and you'll notice that it lengthens because here it's in an open pretonic syllable. So those all kind of end up very nice. If you remember, our box was this. The reason I'm mentioning it, the box was this, and we labeled this as a silent schwa. Okay, now we get to the suffixes and we actually get a kametz. Why? Well, this schwa kind of did its number in different words on this particular word with the suffixes that original patach, oh, I've already erased it, that original patach is going to lengthen out in a pretonic open syllable. So again, it looks different than the boxes we've learned. However, it follows our rules very nicely. So let's look at another set. This one is a little more scrunched because it covered a couple of pages in the book. This one opens up an interesting little feature for us called the hovering dagesh. You'll notice he gives you the root for the 8 with and for the im with. And the reason he does that is because starting with the 1CS, yeah, it looks like all the way down. I don't have the 3FP here. I must have cut it off, or it's cut off at the bottom. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay, well, I can't get it to stay. But either way, all the way down, you get this dagesh in that middle mem. What that's showing us is that the actual root of our vocabulary word im is a triliteral root, and when we add an ending to the word, namely a hirik yod in this case, that hovering dagesh lands. If you want to look back at chapter 4 with the dagesh, you'll probably see that. But again, we're trying to describe the language, not tell it what to do. And so when we see this dagesh popping up, the best way to describe it, and in fact the right way to describe it, is that the original root was a triliteral root with a geminated second letter, geminated meaning a twin. So aleph tav tav, ayin mem mem, something like that. So that's a neat little feature there. Apart from that, you pretty much just add the endings onto that mem with the dagesh or that tav with the dagesh. The next one I want to show you is kind of how to distinguish between our direct object marker and the preposition with. The best way to do this is like this. If you'll notice all the way down on with, you have that aleph with the hirik. All the way down on the direct object marker till we get here, which is a little bit different, but all the way down for the most part, we get that aleph with the holum. The aleph with the holum, if you could think of the holum is an O, and we are looking at the object. So O object. Okay, so if you can think about that, that may help you identify in the text whether you're looking at a direct object preposition or whether you're looking at an entire prepositional phrase with a suffix on it. So that's another thing you can keep in mind on that one. Let's look at the next set. And here we have AL2, all on or upon, and lefanim before. These are all kind of bunched together here because they function very similarly. And I'll let you kind of just look at those. Notice on ale, they actually oh, this is why these are all lumped together. I was trying to figure out what the common denominator was. These words all take the plural pronominal suffixes, and so as you go down through here, you'll notice that. One thing that does with ale and with all is on these heavy endings, it moves the accent down to where we now get a vocal schwa composite underneath those gutturals. If you'll notice with lefanim, we still would get that schwa here, but because they fought, it went from this in the first two letters simply to this. If I can get it to, oops, yeah, simply to that. Okay, so you can see the evidences of that shift because of the heavy endings pulling the accents down. So just keep in mind that these three words will all use the plural suffixes when you add on to those, and really apart from that, they're very much the same as far as how they run the rules. I think I have a note in my book. Yeah, in my book I've written a note. These work with steps and rules. So any of these you actually could go proto, add the box, the plural suffix box, and then run the rules, and they will work out nicely. So there are those. And then let's see, we've got two more sets. This is the kaf. This one can be a bit cumbersome. Except that what you kind of just gather on this one is that we have a proto form for the kaf, that is kamo. If you take that and then add the appropriate box, you'll come out with the right words: kamoni, kamocha, kamoch. So this would be as me. Yeah, there's the translations there, so I don't need to read those for you. But this is going to be the key to this one: is finding that, recognizing that proto form of the kaf. And I can't really explain that much to you other than that it's just an extended form. And notice in the 2MP, 2FP we don't get it, but then it comes back in the 3MP, 3FP. So a little bit of an odd bird there, but again, if you memorize this, it won't throw you off. And then finally we get another odd bird with the min preposition. And with this one, we have another proto form, or what we would probably rather call a reduplication. So what we in essence have is men. Oops. We have men being what we call reduplicated. Okay. And this noon jumps into this mem, and so we end up with kind of this quasi-proto form of mim, and then whatever the ending would be. For the first one there, then we have mimami, and we have mimcha, mimech, mimenu, mimena. So these are a little bit odd, but I think you can kind of see that reduplication as to why we get that dagesh in the mem on these. Now, the dagesh with the mem, again, we don't see it in the heavy endings. That is just the way those work. Again, we're describing the language, not telling it what to do. So we're just describing that, hey, when we see a min preposition with a 2MP, it's michem, not mimechem. So it's the way it is. So there are those. Again, memorize those, learn those well. If you do, they won't throw you off too much in text. You should be able to recognize those fairly well, but it will take a little bit of time to memorize them. Let me know if you have any questions.